Welcome, everybody, to the Fanmouth Daily Fantasy Baseball Breakdown for Monday, June the 16th. I'm Joe Marsh, joined today by Dave Del Grande. How you doing, Dave?
Peachy.
All right, Dave is peachy. We got a big slate of games today. I think there's a lot of good options today as far as hitting. There's a few weak pitchers to pick on. There's a few good pitching options, so we'll get right into it. We'll go through, help you build your lineup, go through our teams, tell you who we like by position. I think the top pitcher today is Teheran. He's been great at home this season, 1.24 ERA, 182 batting average against. Sort of a decent strikeout guy, 7.94 strikeouts per 9 innings. Drawing the Phillies, who are not a very good offensive team. They're hitting 229 in the month of June, very near the bottom of the league, hitting 233 against right-handers. So I think he's the way to go. I don't think he's really going to post you, a high strikeout total, but I think he's the best bet tonight among the pitchers. To pair with him, I would head to Dave's neighborhood and go straight to the low rent district. I think there's a few good options. I think Pomeranz is a decent option. DeGrom is a decent option. The top play for me, though, out of the low rent guys is Chris Young. He's actually been pretty good this year. 2.58 ERA at home with a 170 batting average against. And again, I'm always going to look as of right now to oppose the Padres. They're hitting 219 against righties, 212 on the road. They're scoring less, averaging less than 2 runs per game for the month of June. I think he can post a strong game. He's not a big strikeout guy, but maybe he'll get you 5, 6 strikeouts, and hold them to one run or less. I think that's a good way to go for a cheap option. What are you thinking tonight at pitcher, Dave?
Well, I agree with a lot of what you said there. I think that clearly Teheran is the best pitcher going tonight. My only concern about him is that he's up against Hamels. Excuse me. Hamels has been pitching as well as anybody, and so I like when I pay a lot of money for a pitcher. I like a mismatch in the pitching matchup. This is definitely not a mismatch. It's the two good pitchers going here. That said, Teheran against Philadelphia's offense might be enough of a mismatch to get me to look there. But I do like a lot of other options. There, you mentioned one in kind of the mid-price range, which is Young. There's another one in that price range, which is Kohler. Kohler's a much better pitcher at home than he is on the road. He's facing the Cubs tonight, one of the weakest hitting teams. That game is at home. And so I think that's another matchup to look at. And then at the very, very bottom of the chart, which of course is my favorite place to go, there are two pitchers down there that I think you should strongly consider. One is Martinez of St. Louis. Now, he's a reliever making a start. He's probably only going to give you 5 innings, but it is against the Mets. St. Louis has a ton of good pitchers, especially in their bullpen. I think he might be a big surprise tonight in a game St. Louis at home really ought to win. And then the other one is Matzek of Colorado. Now, I mentioned him last week when he made his debut at home. He pitched very well in that game. He's pitching at LA tonight, which not ideal. It's on the road, but then again, is pitching at home when you're pitch for the Rockies is that good. He's a lefty facing the Dodgers. The Dodgers do not hit lefties well. The Dodgers are pitching Ryu tonight. He has not been pitching that well. Matzek is a high strikeout guy. We saw in his first game he got a lot of strikeouts. It's a good matchup. And at the price, certainly worth considering.
All right. I agree with a lot of that. I think Matzik is. I mean, he was a pretty highly touted guy coming out. I was a little scared off him because he's facing the Dodgers, but he pitched well. He definitely did pitch well in his last start. Moving over to catcher, who do you like there?
Well, I wish I knew who was starting for the A's tonight because that would make a difference. Jaso is usually good. I'm looking to play A's left-handers against Lewis. I'm looking to play a lot of A's against Lewis tonight. But Jaso's been hitting so poorly lately that I'm just wondering if they're going to keep starting here or whether they're going to go in a different direction there. So I'll look elsewhere. I like Montero tonight. Montero's at home tonight against Peralta. I think that should be a high-scoring matchup with two pitchers that are mediocre at best. Pierzynski, I think, is another guy. I had him the other day. He hit a home run. He's at home against Correa tonight. That's another matchup where I'm going to be looking to get Boston's left-handers in the lineup. So I think that Montero and Pierzynski, they're similar prices. They're not real heavyweights, but they're not bargains either. I would say those are the two guys that I would choose between.
Yeah, you already touched on two of the games that I'm attacking. One of them is the A's against Lewis. I don't think I'm not going with Jaso because I'm not sure if he'll be in the lineup. If he is, he won't be a Fet. He's 0 for his last 18. So why not go with Derek Norris? You know, if you're going to spend it, catcher. 6 hits in his last 3 games. He's hitting 391 in June. You definitely do want some A's in your lineup. And you know, Lewis isn't getting anyone out. You know, he hasn't gotten lefties or righties. He's given up a 336 batting average. You know, righties are hitting him well. Norris actually hits righties well. So if you're going to spend at catcher, I think he's the way to go. There are some cheaper options if you're looking to save at catcher. But and then sticking with A's right over to first base, Brandon Moss, same thing. Get some left-handed A's in the lineup. He hasn't been great lately, but he's due to bust out pretty soon. And I think today is the day to go. You know, I mean, Lewis hits a ton against right-handers, 13 home runs. And you got Lewis, who's given up a 361 batting average to lefties. I think A's are a great play today. What about you at first base?
I do like Moss as well. But I think there's a better matchup at first base today, and that is Detroit's big right-handed hitters against Vargas tonight. Vargas has given up a ton of power against right-handed hitters, 10 homers already this year. But who do you pick? Do you pick Cabrera or do you pick Martinez? I think you can make a case to put them both in the lineup, especially if you're on a day like today where you're not going to be spending that much on pitching. Even if you go with Teheran, you know, he's not one of these $20,000 guys, so immediately you're saving about $4,000. And then if you stoop down to even the middle level, you're saving another $5,000-6,000. So I think you're going to get a better lineup today that maybe you're used to. And so maybe you can get both Cabrera and Martinez in the lineup. There's certainly both have home run potential in this game.
All right, moving over to second base. That's another team that I'm really liking today is the Brewers against Brandon McCarthy. So I like Jeanette there for a bit of a cheaper play. 6 hits in his last 3 games. He's hitting 324 against righties. And then again, like I said, McCarthy's another guy you really want to attack. I like the Brewers a lot today, giving up a 324 batting average to lefties. He's a huge play today. What do you think at second?
I agree with that. If you're looking to save money there, that's certainly the way to go. I think I'm going to have money to spend, though, because I don't really see a whole lot of high-priced options, even in the outfield today. So if I have the money to spend, I'll go with Kinsler here again, another right-handed power hitter from Detroit, up against Vargas tonight. If I need to save a little bit, yes, I think Jeanette's a very strong play.
Yeah, and if I was going to be spending, I like Pedroia as well. You mentioned Correa. He doesn't get righties out even that well, so I think Pedroia is a strong play. Third base, it looked like we agreed at both spots at third base today. What do we got?
Well, I don't really see the heavyweight options at third base today. So this is probably going to be a spot where I look to save a little bit money, and you get a good one. You've talked about the matchup of Boston against Correa. You get Holt here, who's been a very hot hitter. He's moved up the salary chart pretty quickly, to the point where he's now a mid-range guy rather than a real bargain. But still, he's hit better than this price range. He's going to be even higher as we go along. And you get a lefty against Correa here at a nice price. I'm going to take him over the higher-priced options tonight, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. He's hitting 387 in June. He's had 7 multi-hit games this month. And again, Correa is a guy we really want to go after. 5.60 ERA this season. Doesn't you can put righties or lefties in against him. He doesn't get a ton of people out. And then shortstop, you like Tulowitzki here?
Well, again, it's similar to the second base position. If you have money to spend, then you can never go wrong with Tulowitzki. He's facing a lefty here. Ryu is a decent pitcher, but Colorado, going into LA with a ton of momentum, 5 straight wins, they're hitting the ball real well. Even against San Francisco's pitching staff, they scored a bunch of runs over the weekend. So you could do a whole lot worse than to spend your money on him today. But there's a guy that you've talked about recently. He certainly hasn't cooled down, and that's Gregorius of Arizona. Again, nice matchup there against the Brewers. He's been hitting well. He's a cheap price. I kind of feel the same way as you. I'm going to play Jeanette and Gregorius if I need to save money, or I'll go with the higher price guys if I can spend money. It's a nice option to have.
Yeah, I'll even give you 3 levels today. I think Tulowitzki being the highest, Gregorius being the lowest. Maybe throw in a Jed Lowry too. Get another A's lefty in there for sort of a, not too expensive shortstop. But yeah, I do like Gregorius a bit. I don't think this is a great day at shortstop other than Tulo against the lefties. So maybe you can save some money here if you want to go big in the outfield, because there's some big outfielders to start today. He's hitting .333 against righties. He's hit both his home runs against righties in some limited playing time. He's shown some power. You got Peralta, gives up a .289 batting average to lefties. So I think that's a good call, Dave. I think that's a very strong play. And then we'll move over to the outfield, where I think there are some heavy hitters. Why don't you go ahead and kick us off there?
Well, I'm curious to hear what you have to say, because I don't think there's a lot of heavy hitters going in the outfield today. I guess my top 2 choices in terms of the high-price guys would be the Brewers, Gomez and Braun. Braun it just continues to be a disappointment to me, though. He's someone who is just not hitting with the power that we're used to. To me, to the point where Gomez is almost always a better option than him. So I'm not sure I'd want to put both of them in the lineup tonight, but I'll consider it because I don't really like the other high-priced options. I think that Crisp is a good play. He's not what you'd call a real high-priced guy. He's a high middle-ranking guy. Blackman is another one of the Rockies guys. Ryu is not. He's got a .333 batting average against lefties. Blackman is another leadoff guy like Crisp who can get on base and score some runs. And then I think there are some decent lower price guys as well. So I'm like I said, I'm curious to hear who you think the good high-priced options are, because I'm very open-minded right now.
Well, you mentioned them. I'm not sure who. I think the problem was I was having a hard time finding the good lower-priced options. So I was thinking I would probably spend a bit in the outfield. Maybe you can help us out with that. But I like Gomez a lot. Braun I like a little bit. I mean, Gomez, again, he's hitting .319, 8 home runs against right-handers. He's hot right now, 9 for his last 25, hits very well on the road. They're playing in a hitter's park. And again, you look at McCarthy. McCarthy's made 14 starts. He's given up 14 home runs, about a home run a start. That's pretty good from a hitter's standpoint. So I think Gomez is my home run play today. I think he's a very solid pick. I like Braun. Again, he hasn't been hitting well. You're right, that is a bit risky. But then you can still get some A's there in the outfield. I think Crisp is a good play the way he's been hitting. 13 for his last 39, 2 home runs over that time. And again, remember, Lewis, .361 batting average to lefties. That's a big deal. So he's a good play as well. Chris Davis, if you want to get a cheaper Brewer in there. Markakis against a righty, I think, is a good play. He's hit all 6 of his home runs against righties. Hits very well on the road. And then I think Cole Calhoun is a very good play. He's hitting .313 in June. 4 home runs off of right-handed pitchers, so I think he's solid as well. Did you have any other low-price guys that you think?
Yeah, there are. I mean, Jones of Seattle, is someone who continues to hit well, continues to be a low-price guy. He's going up against Ross tonight. I mean, Ross is a decent pitcher, but nothing special. I think at a very low price, he's a nice guy to play. Peralta is another guy. Peralta of Arizona. Peralta of Arizona is facing Peralta of Milwaukee tonight.
Yeah.
Peralta of Milwaukee, .289 batting average against, with some power against lefties. You got Parra out there. You got Peralta. You got a couple of left-handed hitters. Peralta, for as well as he's been playing lately, his price is still rock bottom. So you basically get him for free, as you like to say.
That's what you like to say.
So yeah, I mean, so between Peralta and Jones, and to a lesser extent Parra, I think there are three lower price guys to consider. Another guy I didn't mention before because I don't really quite know where to fit him in. He's available on Fanmouth as a DH only. Is Butler of Kansas City. Now, Kansas City is the hottest team going right now. Not that they're a great offensive juggernaut, but Verlander been terrible this year. 325 batting average against with 5 homers against righties of late. Butler's a big, powerful right-handed hitter. Seems to match up well with him. Man, it's almost like you got to have a Kansas City guy in there at some point, right? The way they've been going. But if he's only going to be, Martinez only plays DH in the Fanmouth game, and I mentioned him before. He's my home run pick of the day, in case I didn't mention that. So it's like, oh my God, I'd like to squeeze him in there somewhere, but unfortunately on Fanmouth you got to pick between those two, and I'm going to go with Martinez.
That's funny. That's exactly. I was just going to get to that point. Actually, you could even throw David Ortiz in there. Is that there are 3 DHs with great matchups. You mentioned Martinez with Vargas. He's given up 10 home runs to right-handers. You've got Billy Butler actually is hitting like 432 for his career against Verlander. He's absolutely owned him. And then, I would even throw David Ortiz in there, who hasn't been great lately, but you have the good lefty-righty matchup. He crushes righties facing a weak righty who doesn't get lefties out. So you have a big decision to make at your utility spot. You're going to have to spend some money there, get one of those guys in there, but that's a great point. They all only qualify right there. That about wraps it up. That's all the positions, including your bonus utility position coverage today. So we'll go ahead and start with the final word for me. I think Dave and I agree, kind of. I mean, you're going to go, to Heron, and there's not much else in the high category, so I think you're going to dip down a bit. I like Chris Young. I think you could do well with Jake DeGrom. I like Drew Pomeranz a bit. It's not the best matchup, but I think that's the way to go as far as pitching. And then there's 3 big teams to get in your lineup. I think you could build your entire lineup out of A's, Red Sox, and Brewers. Definitely want to use Jeanette. Brandon Moss is a good call as well. Brock Holt, Gregorius. You can save some money on the infield. If you went Jeanette, Holt, Gregorius, you can probably use whomever you want elsewhere, especially those big outfielders and one of those big studs at utility. So I think that's the way to attack it today. Dave, final word.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement with you. I think that I just don't see a whole lot of high-priced options in the hitting ranks, and I don't like to force it, and just to spend money, just to throw money on a high-priced hitter because I have it to spend. You're usually better off throwing that at a higher-priced pitcher. So maybe I'll end up with Heron going tonight as a pitcher because I'll be looking to spend the money somewhere. But I do like Young. I do like Kohler and his matchup. These are 2 mid-price guys. If I dipped way down the chart, which I normally would do if I really liked a lot of hitters, that tonight is not one of those nights. I would take a shot with Martinez tonight of St. Louis in his matchup against the Mets. Agree with you that you're going to want a couple of Detroit's hitters in there. Martinez and Cabrera, maybe Kinsler, a couple of the big Brewers hitters. Gomez definitely, maybe Braun. I'd even consider Ramirez, for the Brewers, and then get a couple of your A's hitters in there as well. So that list starts with Crisp, and those are you definitely want to go against Lewis tonight. You definitely want to go against Correa tonight, and like I said, I think Detroit's righties match up well with Vargas. So I think it should be a good night.
Yeah. Dave and I don't always agree, so when we do, you should probably listen, because if we both think something's right, then it's a good
I
chance.
Disagree with that. We usually agree all the time.
Do we? All right. Apparently we agree more than I realize. But that wraps us up for the day. We will be back tomorrow with some more good stuff. In the meantime, you can check out our rankings at blog.fanmouth.com. Follow us on Twitter at PlayFanmouth. Thank you very much.